Hey everyone, I'm Monoscaling. I'm here to guide you today. If you use this video to drift off to sleep, please tap like, hit subscribe, and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from and what time it is there. Now get comfortable and relax. My name is Sophia Hughes. This happened 3 months ago in Ocala National Forest, and I need to write it down before I forget the parts I'm supposed to remember. Before I forget Marcus's face the way it was before. Before I forget what Barkley sounded like when he was still just a dog. I drove down to Central Florida in October because my lawyer said I needed to get away and process things. The divorce had been finalized for 6 weeks, and I still woke up every morning reaching for someone who wasn't there. My sister suggested therapy. My mother suggested church. I suggested putting 1,500 miles between myself and the empty house in Ohio, so I rented an RV, loaded up my dog, and pointed south. Ocala National Forest isn't the kind of place people visit by accident. You have to want to go there. It's dense scrubland and pine forests, shot through with springs and sinkholes, and it has a reputation. I'd read about it online. Hikers who disappeared, abandoned campsites found with all the gear still inside, strange lights in the woods at night. The kind of stories people tell themselves when they need to believe the world is more interesting than it is. I didn't believe in that stuff then. The Juniper Springs campground had been half empty when I pulled in on a Tuesday afternoon. Most of the sites were just concrete pads and picnic tables surrounded by palmettos and live oaks. The air smelled like wet earth and something else, something organic and old. Barkley had started whining the moment I parked, which wasn't like him. He's a golden retriever mix, 4 years old, and usually he's excited about everything. But he just sat in the passenger seat and whined, staring out at the trees. "It's fine," I told him. "Just a new place." The ranger who checked me in was a woman in her 50s named Chen. She had the tired look of someone who'd answered the same stupid questions 1,000 times. "First time in Ocala?" she asked. "Yes." "Staying long?" "A week, maybe 2. She nodded and slid a map across the counter. "Stay on marked trails. Don't camp outside designated areas. And if you see anything weird, just..." She paused, seemed to reconsider. "Just come find me or one of the other rangers." "Weird how?" "People get lost out here. The terrain isn't as friendly as it looks." She stamped my permit. "And keep your dog on a leash. We've had issues with wildlife." I thanked her and drove to Site 17, which was tucked back in a corner away from the other campers. Privacy was what I wanted. Space to be alone with my thoughts and figure out who I was supposed to be now that I wasn't anyone's wife. The RV was a 23-footer I'd rented from a place outside Columbus. It smelled like strangers and had a leak under the sink I'd already learned to ignore. But it was mine for the next 2 weeks, and that was enough. I spent the afternoon setting up, leveling the RV, connecting the water, testing the propane. Barkley stayed close, unusually clingy. Every few minutes he'd stop and stare at the woods, ears forward, body tense. I kept telling myself he was just adjusting. Around 5 o'clock, a man appeared at the edge of my sight. "Evening?" he called out. He was maybe mid-40s, wearing cargo shorts and a faded university t-shirt. His RV was parked 2 sites over, a bigger model than mine with Colorado plates. "Just wanted to say hi. I'm Marcus." I introduced myself. He seemed friendly enough. "Divorced too," he said, taking some time to find himself before he had to go back to work in December. He taught high school English in Denver and had the kind of easy manner that probably made him popular with students. We talked for maybe 20 minutes. Normal conversation. He asked where I was from, what I did for work, why Ocala. I gave short answers. I wasn't there to make friends. As he was leaving, he paused and looked back at the woods behind my RV. "You ever hear any strange stories about this place?" he asked. "Like what?" "Missing people, unexplained disappearances." He smiled, but it didn't quite reach his eyes. "I've been here 3 days, and I swear I keep seeing something moving between the trees at night. Probably just deer, but what?" He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "A ranger told me something yesterday. We were talking about the trails, and he got real serious. Said there's something out here that people sometimes see. He said if I ever saw something that didn't look right, something that made my skin crawl, I shouldn't look at it. Just turn around and walk away." I laughed. Sounds like he was messing with you. Maybe. Marcus shrugged. But the way he said it, he wasn't joking around, he said. Don't look at it. Whatever you do. Like it was the most important thing he'd ever tell me. Well, thanks for the warning, I guess. Yeah. He nodded and started walking back to his site. Have a good night, Sophia. I made dinner on the RV's 2-burner stove. Pasta with jarred sauce, nothing fancy. Barkley ate his kibble but kept leaving his bowl to stand at the door, growling low in his throat. Outside, the sun was setting fast, the way it does in October. The trees turned into silhouettes and the spaces between them filled with shadows. I tried to read but couldn't focus. Marcus's story kept playing in my head. Don't look at it. It was the kind of thing that gets under your skin precisely because it's so vague. What was it? An animal? A person? Something else? Around 9, I took Barkley out for his final walk of the night. The campground was quiet. I could see lights on in a couple of other RVs, but no one was outside. The air had cooled but still felt thick, humid. Barkley pulled hard on the leash, trying to drag me back toward the RV. Come on, you have to go, I said. He finally peed at the edge of the site, fast and nervous, then immediately tried to bolt back. I'd never seen him act like this before. Back in Ohio, he'd loved being outside at night. He'd stand in the yard and bark at absolutely nothing, tail wagging the whole time. I got him inside and locked the door. Not that the lock on an RV door means much, but it made me feel better. I tried to sleep around 11. The mattress in the back of the RV was adequate but not comfortable, and I kept waking up to Barkley's whining. He was lying on the floor next to the bed, staring at the window. The blinds were down, but I could see his eyes tracking something, moving slowly from left to right like he was following movement outside. There's nothing there, I told him. But I got up and looked anyway. The window faced the woods. In the darkness, I couldn't see much, just the outline of trees against a sky that wasn't quite black, and between the trees, movement. Something pale and low to the ground, moving horizontally. Too smooth to be an animal, too deliberate. I stepped back from the window. My heart was beating hard. It's just a person, I told myself. Another camper going for a walk. But I didn't believe that. I got back in bed and lay there listening. Barkley had stopped whining. The RV made its normal settling noises, creaks and pops as the metal cooled. Outside there was wind in the trees. Normal sounds. I must have dozed off eventually because I woke up to light coming through the windows. My phone said it was 9:47 a.m., which was impossible. I never sleep past 7, even when I'm exhausted. Barkley was still on the floor, awake, watching me. When I sat up, he just put his head on his paws. Didn't wag his tail. Didn't get excited about breakfast. I got dressed and took him outside. The morning was overcast, the air still humid. Marcus's RV was silent, his camp chair sitting empty beside a dead fire pit. I figured he was sleeping in. I spent the morning trying to work. I'm a freelance graphic designer, and I'd brought my laptop with the intention of keeping up with projects, but my internet connection kept dropping. The campground was supposed to have Wi-Fi, but it barely functioned. Eventually, I gave up and decided to go for a walk. The trail nearest my site was called the Yearling Trail, a 7-mile loop through pine flatwoods and hardwood hammocks. The ranger station had warned me to stay on marked trails, so that's what I did. Barkley came with me, still nervous, but at least moving. The trail was well maintained, but empty. We walked for maybe an hour without seeing anyone. The forest around us was dense, palmetto scrub and tall pines, live oaks draped with Spanish moss. Beautiful in an oppressive kind of way. The canopy blocked most of the light, and everything had that same wet earth smell. Around the 2-mile mark, I noticed something odd. We'd passed the same fallen log 3 times, I was sure of it. A huge pine trunk lying across the trail split down the middle, with a distinctive Y-shaped branch sticking up. The first time I'd seen it, I'd taken a picture because the composition was interesting. The second time, I thought I was confused. The third time, I stopped walking. I pulled out my phone and checked the map. According to GPS, we'd been walking in a straight line, but that was impossible. The trail didn't loop back on itself. I tried to refresh the map, but my phone couldn't find a signal. The little pin showing my location just spun and spun, searching. "Okay," I said out loud. "Okay, this is fine. We just need to keep going forward." But forward was suddenly an ambiguous concept. The trail split ahead, neither direction marked. I didn't remember a split. I pulled out the paper map the ranger had given me, but it was useless. Too general, not enough detail. Barkley sat down and wouldn't move. When I tugged on his leash, he just planted his weight and stared at me. Not aggressive, not scared, just waiting. I chose the left path because that felt like it curved back toward the campground. We walked for another 30 minutes. The forest didn't change. Same trees, same undergrowth, same wet smell. My phone was useless. The GPS kept spinning, the time display frozen at 11:47. Eventually, the trail opened up and I saw the campground through the trees. Relief washed over me. We'd just gotten turned around. It happened. I got back to my RV and checked the time on the wall clock inside. It was 3:15 p.m. That didn't make sense. I'd left around 11:00. The walk shouldn't have taken more than 3 hours even if we'd gotten lost, and it had felt like maybe 90 minutes tops. I tried to shake off the unease. Time distortion happens when you're focused on something. I'd probably just lost track. But when I looked at my phone, it still said 11:47. I plugged it into the charger and it immediately jumped to 3:17 p.m. That evening, Marcus knocked on my door around 6. I'd been debating whether to mention the weird hike, and when I opened the door, I saw his face and forgot about it entirely. He looked wrong. It's hard to explain what I mean by that. All his features were the same. Same face, same height, same clothes. But something about the way he held himself was off. His posture was too straight, his smile too wide, and his eyes didn't track properly. When I moved, there was a half-second delay before his gaze followed. "Evening, Sophia," he said. His voice was flat, each word precisely enunciated. "Hey," I said. Barkley, standing behind me, started that low growl again. "I wanted to ask if you've seen anything unusual today." "Unusual how?" "Just unusual." The smile didn't change. Strange occurrences, missing time, objects out of place. The way he said it made my skin crawl. It wasn't a casual question. It was like he was reading from a script. "No," I lied. "Why?" "No reason." He stood there for another moment, still smiling, not blinking. "Have a pleasant evening." He turned and walked back to his RV. His movements were too fluid, like he was gliding rather than walking. I watched until he disappeared inside, then I locked my door and closed all the blinds. Barkley wouldn't leave my side for the rest of the night. He pressed himself against my legs while I tried to eat dinner, and when I sat on the couch, he jumped up beside me and put his head in my lap. His whole body was trembling. "I know," I whispered, petting him. "I know something's wrong." Around 10 p.m., I heard footsteps outside. Slow, deliberate footsteps circling the RV. They'd pause at each window, stay for a few seconds, then move on. I turned off all the lights and sat in the darkness listening. The footsteps stopped at the door. I heard breathing on the other side, slow, rhythmic, like someone exercising tremendous control over each breath. Then Marcus's voice. "Sophia, are you awake?" I didn't answer. "I know you're awake. I can hear your heart beating." That was impossible. The walls of the RV were too thick, but I pressed my hand to my chest and felt my pulse hammering. "Don't look at it," Marcus said. "Whatever you do, don't look at it." His voice had changed. It sounded wrong, too deep, with an echo that didn't make sense, like two people speaking at once, slightly out of sync. "Don't look at it, don't look at it, don't look at it." He repeated it over and over, each time the phrase degrading a little more, the words running together until it became a chant, a rhythm, a sound that made my teeth ache. Then silence. I waited for an hour before I got up and checked the peephole. Nothing outside but darkness. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard that breathing, felt those footsteps vibrating through the floor, and Marcus's warning, now twisted into something else entirely, looping through my mind. At dawn, or what I thought was dawn, though my phone insisted it was still 2:47 a.m., I decided I needed to leave. I'd pack up the RV and drive straight back to Ohio. Forget the rest of the trip. Forget processing my divorce. I just needed to be somewhere that felt real again. But when I tried to start the engine, nothing happened. The battery was completely dead. Everything electrical, lights, water pump, refrigerator, was out. I got out and checked the shore power connection. It was plugged in. The campground's electrical post showed a green light, indicating active power. But nothing was flowing to my RV. Marcus's RV was still dark and silent. His truck was there, but I couldn't see any movement inside. I thought about knocking on his door, asking to jump the battery, but the idea of being near him again made me feel physically sick. Instead, I walked to the ranger station. It was a mile through the campground, past empty sites and RVs that all seemed abandoned. Some of them had camp chairs and picnic setups, but no people, no sounds except my footsteps and Barkley's panting beside me. The ranger station was locked. A sign on the door said, "Back at 10:00," but didn't specify AM or PM. I checked my phone. 7:32 a.m. I waited until 9. No one came. The parking lot was empty except for one truck that looked like it had been there a while. Pine needles covering the hood. Dirt caked on the tires. I started walking back, and that's when I saw him. Marcus was standing in the middle of the road about 50 yards away. Just standing there, facing me. His arms hung at his sides, his head tilted at an angle that was almost imperceptible, but deeply wrong. I stopped walking. He didn't move. Didn't call out. Just stood there. "Marcus," I said, my voice cracking. He took one step forward, then another. His legs moved like he'd never learned to walk properly, like someone was puppeteering him from above. Barkley started barking, loud and frantic. I backed up. Marcus kept coming, step by horrible step. Then he opened his mouth and that sound came out, the same chanting from last night. "Don't look at it, don't look at it, don't look at it." But his lips weren't moving. The sound was coming from somewhere deeper, resonating from inside his chest. I ran. I pulled Barkley back toward the ranger station, then veered off the road into the woods. Stupid, reckless. But I couldn't stay on the open road with Marcus coming at me like that. The forest swallowed us immediately. The trees were taller here, the undergrowth thicker. I pushed through palmettos, the sharp leaves cutting my arms. Behind me, I could hear Marcus crashing through the brush, still chanting, getting closer. I don't know how long I ran. Time had become meaningless. The sun was overhead, then it was behind me, then it was overhead again. My phone was useless. Still stuck at 7:32, the battery indicator frozen at 34%. Eventually I stopped because I had to. My lungs were burning, my legs shaking. Barkley collapsed beside me, tongue lolling, eyes wide with fear. We were in a clearing I didn't recognize. The ground was boggy, water seeping up between my shoes. Spanish moss hung so thick from the trees it created curtains, sectioning off the space into smaller rooms. I listened for Marcus but heard nothing. "Okay," I said, trying to catch my breath. "Okay, we just need to find the main road. Flag down a car, get out of here." But I had no idea which direction the road was. I picked a direction that felt right and started walking. After maybe 10 minutes, I found a trail. Not a maintained trail like the yearling. This was narrower, overgrown, barely visible. But it was something. We followed it for what felt like an hour. The forest stayed the same. Same trees, same moss, same wet ground. My sense of direction was completely shot. Then I saw the RV. At first I thought we'd somehow walked in a circle back to the campground. But as we got closer, I realized this wasn't my RV. It was older, a different model, with Michigan plates. And it had been here a long time, rust eating through the metal, vines growing up the sides, windows so dirty I couldn't see inside. The door was hanging open. I knew I shouldn't go in. Every instinct screamed at me to keep walking. But I needed to know. Needed to understand what was happening. The inside of the RV was wrong in ways that went beyond age and abandonment. The furniture was there but distorted, like it had been heated until it melted slightly, then cooled in new shapes. The kitchenette's metal sink had flowed like liquid into new forms. The couch had fused partially with the wall, and there were marks on every surface. Scratches, gouges, long claw marks dragged through metal and wood. Some of them were shallow. Some went deep, tearing right through to the insulation. On the far wall, someone had carved words. "Don't look at it, don't look at it, don't look at it, don't look at it." Over and over, covering the entire wall, cut so deep the letters bled through to the outside. I backed out of the RV and threw up in the bushes. When I straightened up, Marcus was standing at the edge of the clearing. But there were two of him. No, not two. The Marcus on the left was the one I'd met that first day, wearing the same cargo shorts and university shirt. The Marcus on the right was wrong. Too tall, limbs too long, face stretched and distorted like someone had grabbed it from above and pulled. They both smiled at the exact same time. "Don't look at it," they said in unison. Then they started walking toward me. I ran again, Barkley at my heels. This time we went deeper into the forest, away from anything that looked like a trail. Branches tore at my face. My ankle rolled on uneven ground, but I kept moving. Behind me, I could hear them coming, not crashing through the brush like before. This was quieter, more purposeful. The sound of two things that had learned how to hunt. I burst through a wall of palmettos and stopped dead. I was back at the campground. My RV sat exactly where I'd left it, the shore power cord still plugged in. Marcus's RV was dark. Everything looked normal. But it couldn't be. I'd been running for hours. I was miles from here. I walked to my RV on shaking legs and tried the door. It was unlocked. Inside, everything was exactly as I'd left it. Coffee cup on the counter, laptop on the table, Barkley's bowl still half full of water. My phone was on the charger. When I picked it up, it showed 7:34 a.m. 2 minutes had passed since I'd left for the ranger station. I looked out the window. Marcus's RV was still dark. The campground was still empty. The sun was in the same position it had been when I'd started my walk. Barkley was standing at the door, growling. Not at the windows or the woods. At me. I looked down at my arms. They were covered in scratches from the palmettos. My clothes were torn, muddy. I could feel the burn in my muscles from running. It had happened. It had all happened. But the clock said it hadn't. I tried to think through what was real and what wasn't, but my thoughts kept sliding away like water. The divorce was real. Ohio was real. The drive down here was real, but everything after. A knock at the door. I froze. "Sophia?" Marcus's voice, normal again, friendly. "You okay in there? I saw you leave earlier and you looked upset." I walked to the door, each step feeling like I was moving through mud. I looked through the peephole. Marcus stood outside. The real Marcus, the one from that first day. No distortion, no wrongness. Just a middle-aged man in cargo shorts looking concerned. I opened the door. "Hey," I said. My voice sounded strange in my own ears. "You all right? You look like you've seen a ghost." "I'm fine. Just didn't sleep well." He nodded, sympathetic. "This place can do that to you. I've been having the weirdest dreams since I got here. Real vivid stuff." He paused. "Listen, I know we just met and this might sound crazy, but I'm thinking of leaving early. This place gives me the creeps. Want to caravan out of here? Safety in numbers and all that?" I almost said yes, almost grabbed my keys and followed him out of this nightmare. But I looked at his eyes and saw it. Just for a second, a flicker of something else looking out at me. Something that knew I'd seen the abandoned RV and the two versions of him in the clearing. Something that was offering me an exit because it knew I'd take it. "No thanks," I said. "I think I'll stay a bit longer." His smile didn't waver. "Suit yourself. Offer stands if you change your mind." He walked back to his RV. I watched him go. Then I locked my door and sat down on the couch. Barkley was still growling at me. I spent the rest of the day trying to charge my phone, trying to start the RV, trying to do anything normal. Nothing worked. The battery wouldn't hold a charge. The engine wouldn't turn over. My laptop wouldn't boot up. As the sun started to set, though my phone still insisted it was morning, I heard footsteps outside again. The same slow, deliberate pattern, circling the RV, then breathing at the door. Sophia, Marcus's voice wrong again. You know what you have to do. Go away, I said. You have to look at it. You've been avoiding it this whole time, but you have to look. Leave me alone. The breathing got faster, more ragged. You can't leave until you look. None of us could. That's the rule. You have to see it. You have to understand. I don't want to understand. Don't look at it, a different voice said. Female coming from the other side of the RV. Don't ever look at it. That's what he told me. Don't look, don't look, don't look. More voices joined in. Some I recognized. The ranger from check-in. Other campers I'd barely noticed when I arrived. All of them chanting, surrounding the RV. Don't look at it. You have to look at it. Don't look. Look at it. Don't. Look. The walls of the RV started to vibrate. The windows rattled in their frames. Barkley was barking nonstop now, spinning in circles, foam at his mouth. I covered my ears, but I could still hear them. The sound was inside my head now, reverberating through my skull. And then I understood. The warning wasn't a warning. It was an invitation. Marcus hadn't been telling me to avoid something. He'd been telling me what would happen if I did, what was already happening. By not looking, I'd become part of it. I stood up and walked to the door. My hand was steady as I reached for the lock. Barkley's barking reached a fever pitch. I opened the door. They were all standing outside in a circle. Marcus, the ranger, a dozen other people I'd never met. All of them too tall now, limbs too long, faces stretched and wrong. And behind them, between the trees, something else. Something I couldn't quite see because my eyes kept sliding away from it. Something that existed in the negative space, in the gap between what was there and what wasn't. Look at it, Marcus said. So I did. I turned my head and I looked directly at the thing in the woods, and I finally understood why the warning existed. Why everyone who'd ever come here had been told the same thing. Because once you look at it, it looks back at you. And once it sees you, you're not alone anymore. I'm writing this 3 months later. I made it out of Ocala. Woke up in my RV on the side of Highway 40 with no memory of driving there. Barkley was gone. The entire back section of the RV was destroyed, the walls torn open from the inside. My phone worked again. It was November 3rd. I'd been in the forest for 3 weeks. The police found Marcus's body in his RV. Heart attack, they said, but I saw the photos online before they were taken down. His face was stretched, distorted, his limbs too long, and carved into every surface. Don't look at it. Don't look at it. Don't look at it. I drove back to Ohio, moved into an apartment downtown where I can hear people at all hours, where I'm never really alone. Started seeing a therapist who thinks I had a dissociative episode brought on by the divorce. Started taking medication that makes everything feel distant and soft. But every night, right before I fall asleep, I feel it, looking back at me through the darkness. Patient, waiting. And the worst part isn't what I saw that night. It's knowing that I'm still there, in the forest. Some part of me never left. Some part of me is still standing outside that RV, staring into the woods, looking at the thing I was never supposed to see. I can feel both versions of myself existing simultaneously. The me here in this apartment, typing this out, and the me that stayed behind. The me that couldn't look away. My reflection acts weird sometimes, moves a half-second too slow, smiles when I don't. Last week I saw my own handwriting on the bathroom mirror. Don't look at it. I wiped it away. But the next morning it was back. I don't tell my therapist about this part. She already thinks I'm unstable. And maybe I am. Maybe I never left Ocala. Maybe I'm still in that RV, listening to voices circle outside, trying to decide whether to open the door. Or maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe the warning was never about protecting me from something out there. Maybe it was about protecting something out there from the parts of me I can't control. The parts that wanted to look, that needed to see, that couldn't just walk away from the mystery. I think about Marcus a lot, about his last words that first night before everything went wrong. Don't look at it. Whatever you do. He knew. He'd already looked. He'd been there for 3 days before I arrived, and he'd already seen it. And it had already seen him. That's why he came to warn me. Not as himself, but as the thing wearing him. Using his voice, his concern, his friendliness. Setting up the trap. Because that's what it does. It finds people like us, people who are running from something, looking for something, missing something. It offers us a mystery, a warning, a choice. Don't look at it. But we always do. That's human nature. Tell someone not to look and it's the only thing they can think about. I wonder how many others are out there right now. How many people camping in Ocala, or in any of the other places where the boundaries get thin. How many of them have heard the warning and thought they could resist? How many of them are standing at their doors right now, hand on the lock, trying to decide? I want to tell them, don't open the door, don't look, walk away. Get in your car and drive, and don't stop until you're somewhere with lights and people and noise. But I know it won't matter, because the warning is part of the trap, and once you hear it, you're already caught. Last night I had a dream. I was back in Ocala, standing in front of my RV. Marcus was there, and the ranger, and all the others. They were all smiling at me with faces that weren't quite right anymore. And behind them in the woods I could see it again. The thing I looked at. The thing that looked back. In the dream I walked toward it, not because I wanted to, but because I couldn't help it. My legs moved on their own. My eyes stayed open even when I tried to close them. And as I got closer, I realized something. It wasn't a monster. It wasn't some supernatural entity or forest demon. It was me. All of us. Everyone who'd ever looked. Combined. Merged. Stretched across time and space into something that existed in the gaps. A collective of people who couldn't leave well enough alone. Who had to know. Who had to see. We were the thing in the woods. And we were waiting for the next person to hear the warning. To wonder what it meant, to open their door and look. I woke up at 3:47 a.m. My apartment was dark and quiet, but I could hear breathing coming from the closet. I should check, I know I should. Because if there's someone in there, I need to know, I need to see. But I also know what will happen if I open that door. I'll look, and it will look back. And I'll finally, completely become the thing I saw in the woods, so I'm sitting here writing this instead. Trying to put it all down before I forget. Before the boundaries between the me here and the me there dissolve completely. If you're reading this, if you ever find yourself in Ocala or any place like it, if someone tells you about something in the woods and warns you not to look at it, please, don't look. But I know you will. Because I told you not to. And now you're thinking about it. Wondering what it is. What I saw. What's waiting out there in the dark spaces between the trees. The breathing from the closet is getting louder. My hand is on the doorknob. I'm going to look. I can't help it. Don't look at it. Don't look at it. Don't. My name is Marcus Webb. This happened in October 2019 when my girlfriend and I went RV camping in Gifford-Pinchot National Forest in Washington. I'm writing this down because I need to get it out, and because no one believes me. Not the police, not my family, not the doctors. They think I'm experiencing some kind of breakdown. Maybe I am, but I know what I saw. Jen and I had been together for 3 years. She worked as a dental hygienist. I did IT support for an insurance company. We weren't outdoorsy people, not really, but her sister had loaned us this RV and we figured why not. It was one of those smaller ones, maybe 25 feet, with a bed over the cab and a little kitchenette in back. The trip was Jen's idea. She'd been stressed about work, about us, about everything. She thought getting away would help. We left Seattle on a Thursday morning. The drive took about 3 hours. Jen was in a good mood, singing along to the radio, making jokes about how we were going to get eaten by bears. I remember thinking how pretty she looked with the sunlight coming through the windshield. Her hair was pulled back in a ponytail and she wasn't wearing makeup. That was one of the things I loved about her. She didn't need it. The campground was called Timber Ridge. It wasn't one of the big official ones. We'd found it on some website that listed lesser-known spots. The reviews said it was quiet, secluded, perfect for couples. There was a small office at the entrance. Just a wooden shed, really, but no one was there. There was a sign that said to pick any available spot and pay at the honor box. We drove down a gravel road that wound through Douglas firs and western hemlocks. The trees were so thick they blocked out most of the sky. We passed 3 other RVs on the way to our spot. All of them looked empty. No cars parked nearby, no camp chairs set up, no lights on inside. I mentioned this to Jen and she said they probably just went hiking. It was only 2 in the afternoon. Our spot was at the end of the road, number 47. It was just a cleared area with a gravel pad, a picnic table, and a fire ring. There was a spigot for water about 20 feet away, and an electrical hookup that looked like it hadn't been used in a while. The forest pressed in on all sides. I remember backing the RV into the spot and scraping a tree branch on the way. It made this long screech against the side that set my teeth on edge. We spent the first hour getting set up. Jen was particular about things being organized. She made me level the RV 3 times before she was satisfied. Then we had to test all the lights, make sure the fridge was running, check that the toilet worked. By the time we were done, it was almost 4 and the light was starting to fade. "Should we drive back to that little town we passed?" Jen asked. "Get some firewood?" I told her we'd brought some. I'd tied a bundle to the back of the RV before we left. But when I went to get it, the rope had come undone. The wood was gone. Must have fallen off somewhere on the highway. Jen got that look on her face, the one where her mouth went tight. "So what are we supposed to do for a fire?" "We can gather some," I said. "There's wood everywhere. It's going to be wet. It hasn't rained in days. Pine burns too fast." We went back and forth like that for a bit. It was stupid. We were both just tired from the drive and from setting up. Finally, she said, fine, we'd gather wood tomorrow. Tonight we'd just eat inside and go to bed early. That was fine with me. We made sandwiches for dinner and ate them sitting on the bed in back, watching something on my laptop. The RV's Wi-Fi hotspot barely worked out here, so we'd downloaded a few movies before we left. I can't remember what we watched. Something with Bradley Cooper, I think. Jen fell asleep halfway through, her head on my shoulder. I turned off the laptop and just sat there for a while, listening to her breathe, listening to the wind in the trees outside. That's when I first heard the deer. It wasn't walking through the campsite or anything dramatic. I just heard something moving through the underbrush maybe 30 or 40 feet away. Twigs snapping, leaves rustling. It stopped, then started again. I figured it was looking for food, maybe smelling our sandwich wrappers in the trash bag I'd hung on the door handle. I eased Jen's head onto a pillow and went to the front of the RV. The windows up there were bigger, and I thought maybe I could see what it was. I turned off the lights inside so I could see out better. It took a minute for my eyes to adjust. The moon was almost full, but the trees blocked most of it. I could make out the shapes of trunks and branches, but not much else. Then I saw it. It was standing at the edge of the clearing, maybe 20 feet from the RV. Just standing there, not moving. A doe, I thought, based on the size. It was facing me, or facing the RV at least. I couldn't really see its eyes, but I got the sense it was looking right at me. We stayed like that for probably a full minute, neither of us moving. Then it turned and walked back into the trees. Slow, unhurried, like it had all the time in the world. I went back to bed after that. Jen was sprawled out, taking up most of the space. I had to kind of wedge myself in next to her. She mumbled something but didn't wake up. I lay there staring at the ceiling, listening to that sound of something moving through the underbrush. On and off for hours. I kept telling myself it was just animals. Deer, raccoons, maybe a bear. This was their home, not ours. But I didn't sleep well. The next morning, Jen was up before me. I heard her in the kitchenette making coffee. When I came out, she was sitting at the little table looking at her phone. "No signal," she said. "Yeah, we're pretty remote." "I know, but I had a bar last night." I checked my phone. She was right. Nothing. Not even one bar. I tried walking outside and holding it up, but that didn't help. Jen came out too, and we walked around the campsite in our pajamas, both of us holding our phones in the air like idiots. No signal anywhere. "This is what you wanted," I said. "To get away from everything." I didn't mean away from everything. I just meant away from work. We went back inside and had breakfast. Cheerios with milk that was already starting to taste a little off even though the fridge was running. Jen suggested we drive back to the town, get some proper groceries, maybe some firewood. I said, "Okay." That's when we hit the deer. We'd gone maybe half a mile down the gravel road when it ran out in front of us. I didn't even see where it came from. One second the road was empty. The next second there was this doe right in front of the RV. I slammed on the brakes, but we were going too fast on the gravel. The RV slid, and I felt the front left corner hit something. There was this awful thud, not loud, but solid. The kind of sound you feel in your bones. I stopped the RV in the middle of the road. My hands were shaking. Jen had braced herself against the dashboard and was breathing hard. "Did you hit it?" she asked. "I think so." We got out and walked back. The doe was lying in the middle of the road about 15 feet behind us. It wasn't moving. There was blood coming from its mouth and nose, a dark puddle spreading on the gravel. Its eyes were open, but they looked wrong. Cloudy. One of its legs was bent at an angle that made my stomach turn. "Oh God," Jen said. "Oh God, Marcus." "I didn't see it. It just ran out." "Is it dead?" I didn't want to get close to it, but I did. I crouched down a few feet away and watched its chest. Nothing. No rise and fall. No breathing. The blood had stopped flowing. "Yeah," I said. "It's dead." Jen started crying, not sobbing or anything, just tears running down her face. She was an animal person. She had 2 cats at home that she loved more than anything. I put my arm around her, but she shrugged me off. "We should move it," she said. "Move it where?" "Off the road, into the trees. We can't just leave it here." I didn't want to touch it, but she was right. If another RV came through and I hadn't seen any, but presumably they existed, they'd hit it too. So I grabbed the doe by its back legs and pulled. It was heavier than I expected. Dead weight, I guess. The phrase took on new meaning. Jen helped me, and together we dragged it off the road and about 10 feet into the underbrush. Some of the blood smeared on my hands. I wiped it on my jeans.
"Should we bury it?" Jen asked. "With what? We don't have a shovel." "We should do something. The forest will take care of it. That's how nature works." She didn't like that answer, but she didn't argue. We got back in the RV and drove in silence to the town. It was called Morton, just a little place with one main street. We found a grocery store and bought some things. Milk, eggs, bread,
Lunch meat, beer, firewood at a gas station. The woman working there was friendly, asked us where we were camping. When I told her Timber Ridge, she got this look on her face. "Just you two?" she asked. "Yeah, why?" "No reason. It's just real quiet out there this time of year." That's what we wanted. She rang up the firewood and didn't say anything else. I wanted to ask what she meant, but Jen was already heading out the door with the groceries. On the drive back, I kept thinking about that look on the woman's face. Like she knew something we didn't, but that was stupid. She was probably just making conversation. People in small towns do that. We drove past where we'd hit the deer. The blood was still on the road, but the body was gone. I didn't mention it to Jen. I figured an animal had dragged it off. Coyote or something. The forest takes care of itself. Back at the campsite, we unloaded everything and I started a fire. It was only 3 in the afternoon, but the temperature was dropping. The weatherman on the radio, the only thing that came in clearly, said it would get down to the 30s that night. Jen sat at the picnic table wrapped in a blanket while I got the fire going. Neither of us talked much. The deer thing had put us both in a mood. Around 5, I made hamburgers on a little camp stove I'd brought. We ate them sitting by the fire. The sun was going down early, the way it does in October. The shadows under the trees got longer and longer until they all merged together into one big darkness. "Do you think there are other people here?" Jen asked. "In the campground?" "Yeah. I haven't seen anyone." "Neither have I. But those other RVs must belong to someone. Maybe they're abandoned. Who would abandon an RV? She shrugged and threw her paper plate into the fire. We watched it curl and burn. The flames made shadows dance on her face. For a second she looked different. Older, maybe. Or just tired. That's when I saw the deer again. It was standing at the edge of the firelight, maybe 20 feet away. Same size as the one we'd hit, same build. Just standing there watching us. Its eyes reflected the firelight. 2 bright dots in the darkness. "Jen," I said quietly. "Don't move." "What?" "There's a deer behind you." She turned her head slowly. When she saw it, she went completely still. We stayed like that for maybe 30 seconds. The deer didn't move, just stood there staring at us with those bright eyes. Then Jen said, "Is that the one we hit?" "No, that one's dead." "Are you sure?" "Yes." But I wasn't sure. Not really. How could you tell one deer from another in the dark? They all looked the same, and this one was the right size, the right build. But the one we hit was dead. I'd seen it die. Seen the blood, the broken leg, the cloudy eyes. "Marcus," Jen said. Her voice was shaking. "Look at its leg." I looked. The deer's front left leg was bent at an angle. Not badly. You might not notice it if you weren't looking. But it was definitely bent wrong. "Jesus," I said. The deer turned and walked back into the trees. Same slow pace as the night before. Unhurried, like it had all the time in the world. Jen stood up. "That was it. That was the one we hit." "It can't be." "I saw its leg, Marcus. It was broken." "Deer don't come back from the dead." "Then explain it." I couldn't. We sat there by the fire for another hour, not talking, just staring into the flames. Every sound from the forest made us jump. Twigs snapping, leaves rustling, branches scraping against each other in the wind. Normal sounds that suddenly felt threatening. We went inside around 8. Jen locked the door even though I told her it was pointless. If something wanted to get in, a flimsy RV door wouldn't stop it. That made her cry again, and I felt like an asshole. I apologized, and she said it was fine. She was just tired. The drive, the deer, everything was catching up with her. We went to bed, but neither of us slept. I lay there listening to Jen breathe, listening to the wind, listening to something moving around outside. That same pattern as the night before. Moving, stopping, moving again, circling the RV. I kept waiting for it to stop, but it went on for hours. Around midnight, Jen sat up. "Do you hear that?" "Yes." "What is it?" "I don't know. It sounds like it's right outside." She got up and went to the window over the kitchenette. I followed her. We looked out, but it was too dark to see anything. Just shapes and shadows. The moon had gone behind clouds. Then we heard it breathing. Right outside the window. This wet, labored sound. Like something struggling to pull air into its lungs. Jen grabbed my arm hard enough to hurt. "Is that a person?" she whispered. "I don't know." The breathing stopped. A few seconds of silence. Then we heard footsteps on gravel. Not walking away. Walking around the RV. Slow, methodical steps. Something was circling us. "Call someone," Jen said. "There's no signal." "Try anyway." I got my phone and tried 911. Nothing, not even a busy signal, just silence. Jen tried hers with the same result. The footsteps kept going, around and around. We stood there in the dark kitchenette holding our phones, listening. Finally, Jen said, "We're leaving." "What?" "First thing in the morning, we're leaving." "Okay." "I don't care about the RV or the campsite or any of it, we're leaving." "Okay." The footsteps stopped around 2 in the morning. We went back to bed, but I didn't sleep. I just lay there watching the ceiling, waiting for dawn. Jen's breathing eventually evened out, but her body was tense next to mine. I don't think she was really asleep either. When the sun finally came up, I was so relieved I almost cried. The campsite looked normal in the daylight. Trees, gravel, our dead fire ring. No deer, no footprints, No signs that anything had been circling us all night. We packed up without eating breakfast. Jen moved with this frantic energy, throwing things into bags, not caring if they were organized or not. I disconnected the water and electric and checked that everything was secure. We were ready to go in under an hour. I started the engine and put it in drive. That's when I saw it. The deer was standing in the middle of the road ahead of us. The same one. I knew it was the same one because I could see the dried blood on its chest and legs, the blood from where we'd hit it. Its left front leg was definitely broken, hanging at that wrong angle. But it was standing there, looking at us. "Marcus," Jen said. Her voice was barely a whisper. "I see it." "How is it alive?" "I don't know." I honked the horn. The deer didn't move. I honked again, longer this time. Nothing. It just stood there staring at us with those cloudy eyes. "Drive around it," Jen said. "There's not enough room." The road was narrow, trees on both sides. If I tried to go around, I'd risk getting stuck or scraping the RV again. Jen started to cry, and I felt that familiar helplessness, that feeling of not knowing what to do. "I'm going to get out," I said. "Don't. I'll just scare it off, wave my arms or something." "Marcus, don't." But I was already opening the door. The deer watched me get out. It didn't move, didn't react. Up close, I could see how wrong it was. The dried blood wasn't just on its chest. It was everywhere. Matted in its fur, caked around its mouth and nose. And its eyes weren't just cloudy. They were filmed over, white and dead. But it was standing there, looking at me. I took a step toward it. "Get out of the way!" It tilted its head. Just a slight movement, but enough to make my skin crawl. Like it was studying me, trying to figure something out. "Get!" I yelled. I waved my arms. "Get out of here!" The deer turned and walked into the trees. Same slow pace. I watched until I couldn't see it anymore, then got back in the RV. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely grip the steering wheel. "Is it gone?" Jen asked. "Yeah." We drove down the road. I kept expecting the deer to run out in front of us again, but it didn't. We passed the other RVs, still empty, still dark. We reached the entrance and turned onto the main road that would take us back to the highway. Jen let out this long breath. Thank God. Yeah. We drove for maybe 5 minutes. Trees on both sides, the road winding through the forest. Then I saw the sign, "Welcome to Timber Ridge Campground." We were back at the entrance. "What the hell?" I said. I turned the RV around and drove the other direction. We went for 10 minutes this time. I kept my eyes on the odometer, watching the tenths of a mile tick by. When we hit 2 miles, I should have been well past the campground, almost to the highway. But then I saw it again. "Welcome to Timber Ridge Campground." "Marcus." Jen's voice was high and tight. "I know. How are we back here?" "I don't know." I turned around again. This time I drove faster, not caring if the RV bounced over potholes. 15 minutes, 3 miles. But it didn't matter. The road just curved back on itself, and there was the sign again. "Welcome to Timber Ridge Campground." Jen started to hyperventilate. I pulled over and tried to calm her down, but she was spiraling. "We're stuck here. We're stuck. Why are we stuck?" "We're not stuck. There has to be another way out." "There isn't. We keep ending up at the same place." "Then we'll drive through the forest. Cut our own road." "In an RV?" She was right. It was stupid, but I didn't know what else to suggest. We sat there on the side of the road for maybe 20 minutes while Jen cried, and I tried to think. Finally, she said she wanted to go back to our campsite. Just for now, just until we figured out what to do. So that's what we did. The campsite looked the same as when we'd left it. Fire ring still full of ashes. Picnic table still there. Our tire tracks still visible in the gravel. Jen went inside the RV and lay down. I stayed outside and walked around, trying to make sense of what was happening. The road only went in one direction. There were no turnoffs, no side roads. It should have been impossible to end up back where we started. But we had. 3 times. I thought about walking out, just leaving the RV and hiking through the forest until I hit the highway. But that could take days. And I didn't want to leave Jen alone. And something about the idea of being out there in the trees by myself made my chest tighten with panic. Around noon, Jen came back out. She'd stopped crying, but her face was pale and her eyes were red. "I'm sorry," she said. "For what?" "For losing it. I just don't understand what's happening." "Neither do I." "Do you think we're going crazy? Like both of us? Some kind of shared psychosis?" "I don't know." She sat down at the picnic table and I sat next to her. We stayed like that for a while, not talking, just being together. The sun was warm on my face. Birds were singing in the trees. If you ignored everything else, it was actually kind of nice. That's when we heard the screaming. It came from deeper in the forest, maybe a quarter mile away. A woman's voice, high-pitched and terrified, screaming for help, screaming that something was chasing her. The words weren't clear, but the meaning was. Jen grabbed my hand. "We have to help her." "Wait. Marcus, she's screaming." "I know, but..." The screaming stopped, just cut off mid-shriek. The silence after was worse than the sound. We waited, listening. Nothing. Just wind in the trees and birds chirping like nothing had happened. "Hello?" I shouted into the forest. "Are you okay?" No answer. Jen stood up. "We should go look." "No. Someone's hurt. Or it's a trick." "A trick? What are you talking about?" I didn't know what I was talking about. I just knew that something felt wrong. The screaming had sounded too loud, too clear, like it was coming from right next to us even though it was far away. And the way it just stopped, not fading out or moving away, just stopping. "We're not going into the forest," I said. "Fine, then I'll go." Jen, no. But she was already walking, not into the trees, thankfully, but toward the road. I followed her. She was moving fast, almost running. I had to jog to catch up. "Where are you going?" "To find the other people, the ones with the other RVs. They'll help." We reached the first RV about 5 minutes later. It was one of those big ones, almost 40 feet long. New-looking, expensive. The door was closed and the windows were dark. Jen knocked on the door. "Hello? Is anyone home?" No answer. She knocked again, harder. "Hello? We need help." Still nothing. I tried the door handle. It was unlocked. The door swung open and we looked inside. The RV was empty. Not just empty of people, empty of everything. No furniture, no curtains, no dishes or clothes or any sign that anyone had ever been there. Just bare walls and bare floor. "What the hell?" Jen said. We checked the next RV, same thing. Empty. The third one was empty too. All of them looked lived in from the outside, but were completely hollow inside. "I don't understand," Jen said. "Who would park empty RVs here? Why?" I didn't have an answer. We walked back to our campsite in silence. The sun was starting to set again. I could feel time slipping away from us, the daylight disappearing faster than it should. We had maybe 2 hours before dark. Jen went inside to lie down. She said her head hurt, that she needed to rest. I stayed outside and tried to make a plan. We had food for maybe 3 more days if we rationed it. Water for about the same. After that, we'd have to figure something out, maybe collect rainwater, maybe hike out even if the road looped back. That's when I noticed the deer tracks. They were in the dirt around the fire ring. Fresh tracks, deep impressions. I crouched down and looked at them. They circled the fire ring once, twice, 3 times. Then they led off toward the RV. I followed them. They went around the RV in a circle. A perfect circle, like something had been pacing around us. One of the tracks was smeared. Like the hoof that made it wasn't working right, like it was dragging. I went inside and locked the door. Jen was asleep on the bed, or pretending to be asleep. I didn't wake her. I just sat at the table and watched the windows as it got dark. The breathing started around midnight, same as before. Right outside the RV, moving from window to window. That wet, labored sound. Jen woke up and we held each other in the dark, not talking, just listening. Then I heard something else. A scratching sound, like something was trying to get in. Not at the door, at the wall. long, slow scrapes like fingernails or claws dragging across the metal exterior. "It's trying to get in," Jen whispered. "The walls are solid, it can't." But I didn't believe that. The scratching got louder, more insistent. I could hear it moving around the RV, trying different spots. The door, the windows, the roof. That's what terrified me most, hearing something on the roof, walking around up there, testing the seams. This went on for hours. We didn't sleep. We just sat there in the dark, holding each other, listening to something circle us and try to find a way in. When dawn came, the sound stopped. I got up and looked outside. Fresh tracks everywhere, hundreds of them crisscrossing the campsite. But they all had the same smeared mark on the left front track. All of them. Like they'd all been made by the same animal. The same broken leg. Jen looked over my shoulder. "It was here all night." "Yeah. What does it want?" "I don't know." We ate breakfast in silence. Cereal again. The milk was definitely bad now, but we ate it anyway. After that, I suggested we try to leave again. Jen said, "What's the point? We'll just end up back here." But I couldn't sit around doing nothing. So we drove. Same result. Every road led back to the entrance. We tried 4 times before I gave up. The 4th time, the deer was waiting for us at the entrance, just standing there in the middle of the road, watching us with those dead eyes. Jen started laughing, not happy laughter, the kind that makes you worried. "It's keeping us here." "Don't say that." "Why else would it be here every time? It's keeping us here." "It's just a deer." "No, it's not. Look at it, Marcus. That's not a deer." She was right. I could see that now. The thing standing in the road was shaped like a deer, moved like a deer, but it was wrong in ways I couldn't articulate. The proportions were slightly off, the way it held its head, the way it looked at us with intelligence that animals don't have. We drove back to the campsite one more time. That was 4 days ago. We've been here ever since. The food ran out yesterday. The water is almost gone. I've been keeping track of time by making marks on the picnic table with a rock. 4 marks. 4 days. But I'm not sure that's right. It feels like longer. The sun doesn't move the way it should. Sometimes it's morning for hours, the light never quite reaching noon. Sometimes night falls in minutes. The deer comes every night now. Not just standing outside, it touches the RV. I can hear it pressing against the walls, testing them. Sometimes I hear 2 sets of footsteps, like there are 2 of them now. But when I look outside in the morning, there's still only 1 set of tracks. Jen isn't doing well. She sleeps most of the day, and when she's awake, she doesn't talk much. Last night, she told me she'd been having dreams. Dreams of walking through the forest, of finding a clearing where dozens of deer stood in a circle. In the center of the circle was something dead. She couldn't see what it was, but she knew it used to be a person. This morning, I found her standing outside the RV, just standing there in her pajamas, staring into the trees. When I asked what she was doing, she said she heard someone calling her name. I told her I didn't hear anything. She said it sounded like her mother. I brought her inside and made her sit down. She kept looking at the window, at the trees beyond, like she was listening to something I couldn't hear. "We killed it," she said suddenly. "What?" "The deer. We killed it, and now it won't let us leave. That doesn't make sense. None of this makes sense, but that's what's happening. We killed it, and now it's keeping us here until we..." She stopped talking, just stopped mid-sentence and stared at me. "Until we what?" I asked. She didn't answer, just kept staring at me with this blank expression. After a minute, she got up and went to the bed and lay down facing the wall. That was 6 hours ago. She hasn't moved since. I've called her name, shaken her shoulder, but she won't respond. She's breathing, her eyes are open, but it's like she's not there anymore. I'm writing this down because I don't know what else to do. The sun is setting again. I can see the deer through the window. It's standing at the edge of the clearing, watching the RV. Its broken leg is worse now. The bone is sticking through the skin, but it's still standing, still watching. Jen just got up. I heard her moving behind me. When I turned around, she was standing by the door. "Jen?" She didn't look at me. She just opened the door and stepped outside. "Jen, wait!" I got up to follow her, but something stopped me. The way she was moving, the way she held her body. It wasn't right. She walked toward the deer with that same slow, unhurried pace. The deer didn't move. It just watched her approach. When Jen reached it, she stopped. They stood there facing each other. Then Jen tilted her head. The exact same way the deer had tilted its head when I'd confronted it on the road. The exact same angle. She turned and looked back at the RV. At me. Her eyes were clouded over, white and dead. She smiled. I locked the door. I don't know what else to do. It's dark now and I can hear both of them outside. Jen and the deer, walking around the RV. Their footsteps are perfectly synchronized. They stop at the same time, start at the same time. Sometimes I hear Jen's voice calling my name, but it doesn't sound like her anymore. The tone is wrong, the inflection is wrong. I know I should try to leave, try to run into the forest, find another way out. But I'm too afraid, and I keep thinking about what Jen said, about how we killed it, and now it won't let us leave. About how nothing makes sense, but that's what's happening. I can hear them trying the door now. Jen's voice is saying, "Marcus, open up, it's me." But I won't. I can't. Because I looked out the window a few minutes ago and saw her standing next to the deer. Saw her left arm hanging at a wrong angle, just like the deer's leg. Saw the white film over her eyes. The scratching is starting again. On the walls, on the roof. Both of them now, working together. Testing. Searching for a way in. I don't think they're going to stop. I don't think I'm getting out of here. This is Marcus Webb. If anyone finds this, if anyone reads it, don't go to Timber Ridge Campground in Gifford-Pinchot National Forest. Don't hit the deer. And if you do, don't stop to check if it's dead. Because it won't be. Not really. The scratching is getting louder. They're at the door again. I can hear Jen saying, "Marcus, open up," over and over. Her voice sounds more like her now. That's what scares me most. That I might believe her. That I might open the door. The hinges are starting to give. I should stop writing now. I should. My name is Hannah Carter. This happened last February at Duck Creek Village in Utah. I need to write this down while I still remember it clearly, or at least while I still trust that what I remember is real. The doctors say I have PTSD. My sister thinks I had a breakdown. The police closed the investigation after 3 weeks. But I was there. I know what I heard. I'd been planning the trip for months. After the divorce was finalized in December, I bought a used RV with some of the settlement money, a 2015 Forest River, 26 feet. Nothing fancy, but it was mine. I'd never owned anything that was completely mine before. Derek always made the decisions about everything we bought together, everything we did. The RV was my middle finger to that whole life. I'm not outdoorsy. I want to be clear about that. I didn't grow up camping. I'd been camping maybe twice in my life, both times because Derek wanted to go. But the idea of driving somewhere remote and just existing for a while without anyone asking me questions or expecting anything from me, that appealed to me in a way I can't quite explain. Duck Creek Village sits at about 400 feet elevation in the Dixie National Forest. It's a summer tourist spot, but in February, it's practically deserted. I'd read online that they kept one small campground open year-round for winter RV camping, mostly for people passing through or ice fishing nearby. The photos online looked peaceful, quiet, empty. That's what I wanted. Empty. I arrived on a Tuesday afternoon. The drive from Salt Lake City had taken longer than expected because of road conditions. The highways were clear. But once I got up into the mountains, everything was covered in that hard-packed snow that never quite melts. The kind that's been driven over so many times it's more ice than snow. The campground had maybe 15 RV spots total, arranged in a rough horseshoe shape around a central building that housed the bathrooms and a small camp store. When I pulled in, I counted 3 other RVs. One was clearly permanent. It had a wooden deck built around it and flower boxes that were empty this time of year. The other two looked like they were actually being used for camping. I picked a spot on the far end, away from the others. Not because I was antisocial exactly, but because I didn't want to make small talk. I didn't want to explain why a 34-year-old woman was winter camping alone in southern Utah. I didn't want sympathetic looks when I said I was recently divorced. Setting up the RV took longer than I'd practiced in my driveway. Everything was stiff from the cold. My fingers kept going numb even with gloves on. But eventually I got the water and electric hooked up, the stabilizers down, the heat running. The sun was setting by the time I climbed inside and locked the door behind me. The first night was fine. Cold, but fine. The RV's heater kept up, and I made myself instant ramen on the little propane stove and watched a movie on my laptop until the battery got low. I fell asleep around 10. The next morning I met David and Kelly Green. They knocked on my door around 8 a.m. I was making coffee when I heard it. 3 sharp raps that made me jump. I wasn't expecting anyone to know I was there, let alone come looking for me. David was maybe 40, 45, tall with a beard that was more gray than brown. Kelly was younger, probably mid-30s like me, with dark hair pulled back in a ponytail. They both had that outdoorsy look, the kind of people who own nice hiking boots and know how to use them. "Sorry to bother you," David said when I opened the door. "We're in the spot 3 down from you. Just wanted to introduce ourselves. Not many people camp up here this time of year." "Hannah," I said. I didn't invite them in. "We're here for the ice fishing," Kelly added. She had a friendly smile, but there was something about the way she looked at me. Not unfriendly exactly, but assessing, like she was trying to figure out what my story was. "You fish?" "No," I said. "Just needed to get away for a bit." David nodded like he understood. "Best place for it. We come up every February. It's like the whole world stops existing up here." We made small talk for a few more minutes. They told me about the ice fishing, about how the bathroom facilities stayed heated all winter, about how to keep my water lines from freezing, normal camping advice. I thanked them and said I'd probably see them around, and they left. I spent the rest of the day reading and doing a whole lot of nothing. That was the point after all. Around 3 p.m. I bundled up and walked to the camp store to buy some firewood. The woman working there was probably 70 with leathery skin and suspicious eyes. "Storm coming," she said as she rang me up. "I didn't see that in the forecast," I said. She shrugged. "Forecast don't mean much up here. You get a feeling for it. Should hit tonight. You got supplies?" I said I did, though I wasn't entirely sure what supplies I was supposed to have. She sold me some chemical hand warmers and a flashlight with fresh batteries, just in case. I paid and left, feeling slightly unsettled in a way I couldn't name. The sky was clear, painfully blue. There wasn't a cloud anywhere. By dinner time, clouds had rolled in, thick, dark ones that sat low over the mountains. The temperature dropped fast. I could feel it even inside the RV. I turned the heater up and made more ramen, then settled in with my book. The snow started around 8 p.m. At first, it was light. Flurries that didn't seem like much. But within an hour it was coming down hard. The kind of snow that doesn't fall so much as drives at you sideways. I could hear the wind picking up, rattling the RV slightly on its stabilizers. I wasn't worried. The RV was warm. I had food. The propane tank was full. I'd ridden out worse storms in suburban Salt Lake City houses. The footsteps started at 3:06 a.m. I know the exact time because I looked at my phone when I woke up. The sound was what woke me, a distinct creaking above my head, like someone taking slow, deliberate steps across the roof of the RV. I lay there in the dark, listening. The storm was still going strong. Wind howled. Snow battered the windows. But underneath all that noise, I could hear it. Footsteps, moving from the front of the RV toward the back right above where I was lying in bed. I told myself it was ice, snow building up, then sliding, branches falling from trees. Except there were no trees directly above my RV. I'd parked in an open spot specifically to avoid that. The footsteps stopped directly above me. I held my breath, waited. The wind screamed. The RV rocked slightly. Then the footsteps moved again back toward the front. Slow. Methodical. Like someone pacing. I grabbed my phone and turned on the flashlight. I climbed out of bed, my heart hammering, and moved to the front of the RV. I stood on the seat by the driver's area and looked out the windshield at the roof. Snow. That's all I could see. Thick snow covering everything. The wind was blowing so hard I could barely see 5 feet in front of the RV. If someone was up there, I wouldn't be able to see them in this. The footsteps had stopped. I stood there for maybe 10 minutes, shining my phone's flashlight uselessly out the windshield, seeing nothing but white. Eventually, I convinced myself I'd imagined it. Storm sounds. The RV settling. Whatever. I went back to bed but didn't sleep. The storm continued all the next day. By morning, there had to be at least 2 feet of fresh snow, maybe more. The wind hadn't stopped. I couldn't see the other RVs anymore. The snow was too thick, the wind too strong. It was like being inside a whiteout. I tried my phone around 9 a.m., no signal. That wasn't surprising given the storm and the elevation. I had some podcasts downloaded, so I listened to those, made oatmeal, tried not to think about the footsteps. Around noon, someone knocked on my door. I nearly jumped out of my skin. I wasn't expecting anyone to be outside in this weather. It was David. He was bundled up like an Arctic explorer, his beard crusted with ice and snow. "Hey," he shouted over the wind. "Just checking on everyone. You doing okay?" "Fine," I shouted back. "Do you need something?" "Have you seen Kelly?" I blinked. "What?" "Kelly, my wife. She went to the bathroom around 9 this morning and never came back." The bathroom building was maybe 50 yards from my RV, in good weather a 30-second walk. In this storm, it might as well have been a mile. "No," I said. "I haven't seen anyone. Could she have gotten disoriented? Ended up at the wrong RV?" "I've checked everywhere I can reach," he said. His face was tight with worry. "The bathroom door's open, but she's not there. I thought maybe she came here by mistake." "She didn't," I said. "I'm sorry. Do you want to come in and warm up?" He shook his head. "I need to keep looking." He left before I could say anything else, disappearing into the white curtain of snow. I closed the door and locked it. I told myself Kelly had probably gotten confused in the whiteout, ended up at one of the other RVs, was waiting out the storm there. People don't just vanish, not in the middle of a campground. The footsteps came back that afternoon. It was around 3 p.m. and I was reading, or trying to. I kept thinking about Kelly, about David's face. Then I heard it again, that same slow, deliberate walking on the roof, back and forth, front to back, like someone pacing. I put my book down and listened. This time I was wide awake. I wasn't imagining it. The steps were too regular to be snow falling, too deliberate, and they had weight to them. I could hear the slight groan of the roof under the pressure. I grabbed a broom from my tiny closet and banged it against the ceiling. "Get off!" I shouted. The footsteps stopped immediately. I waited, breathing hard, the broom raised like a weapon. Nothing. Just the howl of wind and the rattle of snow against the windows. Then slowly, the footsteps started again. Same pace, same deliberate walk. Like whoever was up there was ignoring me entirely. I banged again. I said, "Get off my RV." This time the footsteps didn't stop. They continued their pattern, front to back to front, over and over. I didn't know what to do. Call for help? No phone signal. Go outside and check? In a whiteout blizzard? That seemed like a good way to end up like Kelly. Lost, disoriented, frozen. So I sat there, listening to someone walk on my roof, and tried to convince myself there was a logical explanation. By evening, the storm had somehow gotten worse. The wind sounded like it was trying to rip the RV apart. Snow had drifted up against the windows on one side, blocking them completely. I couldn't see outside anymore, couldn't tell if it was day or night except by my phone's clock. And the footsteps didn't stop. They walked all evening, same pattern. Front to back to front. Sometimes they'd stop for a few minutes and I'd think maybe whoever it was had climbed down. left. Then they'd start again. I tried everything. I banged on the ceiling. I shouted. I even played music loud, trying to drown out the sound. Nothing worked. The footsteps continued, steady and patient, like they had all the time in the world. Around 8 p.m., I heard voices outside. I couldn't make out words over the storm, but there were definitely voices. I moved to the door and pressed my ear against it. 2 people, maybe 3, shouting. I unlocked the door and opened it a crack. The wind nearly ripped it from my hand. Snow blasted into the RV. "Can't keep looking." That was David's voice. "We need to wait until it stops. She's out here somewhere." A woman's voice, but not Kelly's voice, someone else. I opened the door wider and stepped into the doorway, immediately regretting it as the cold hit me. I could barely see 2 shapes in the swirling snow, maybe 15 feet away. "Hello?" I called out. They both turned. One was definitely David. The other was a woman I didn't recognize, shorter, wearing a bright blue parka. "Have you seen her?" David called to me. "Seen who?" "Kelly. She's been missing since this morning." I started to say I already knew that he'd told me at noon. But something stopped me, because his voice had a different quality now. Not worried, not frantic, almost excited. "No," I called back. "I haven't seen her. We'll find her," the woman in the blue parka said. "We always do." They disappeared back into the whiteout before I could ask what she meant. I shut the door and locked it. My hands were shaking, and not from the cold. The footsteps above me had stopped. I stood in the center of the RV, dripping melting snow onto the floor, listening. Wind. That was all I could hear. Wind and my own breathing. Then, a knock at the door. 3 sharp raps, exactly like David and Kelly had used 2 days before. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. Another knock. Harder this time. "Hannah?" A woman's voice. "Hannah, it's Kelly. Can you let me in?" I stayed frozen. Every instinct told me not to open that door. "Hannah, please, I'm freezing out here." The voice sounded like Kelly. Same tone, same slight rasp. But there was something off about it, like someone doing an impression rather than the real thing. "Where were you?" I called through the door. A pause. "I got lost. In the storm. Can you please open the door?" "David's been looking for you all day." Another pause, longer this time. "I know. I saw him. Hannah, please, it's so cold." I moved closer to the door, pressed my eye against the peephole. At first, all I could see was white, snow, darkness. Then a shape moved into view. It was Kelly. Same dark ponytail, same face. She was looking directly at the peephole, smiling. But her eyes were wrong. They didn't blink, and the smile was too wide, stretching her face in a way that made my stomach turn. "I can see you looking at me," she said. "Please let me in." "Where did you go?" I asked. "I told you I got lost." "For 12 hours?" That smile didn't waver. "Time moves differently in the storm, you'll see. Please, Hannah, I'm so cold." I backed away from the door. "Go to your own RV, David's there." "I need to come in yours first." "Why?" No answer. I looked through the peephole again. Kelly, or whatever was pretending to be Kelly, was still standing there, still smiling that horrible smile, still not blinking. Then she tilted her head at an angle that was wrong. Too far. Like her neck was broken. "Let me in, Hannah." I stumbled backward, nearly falling. I grabbed my phone, hands shaking so badly I almost dropped it. Still no signal. Of course not. Another knock, then another, then a whole series of them. Rapid fire, making the door rattle in its frame. "Let me in. Let me in. Let me in." The knocking stopped abruptly. Silence, except for the storm. I stayed pressed against the back wall of the RV, staring at the door, waiting for it to open, waiting for her to somehow get in. But nothing happened. After what felt like hours but was probably only minutes, I heard the footsteps on the roof again. Same pattern. Front to back. Back to front. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, the storm was still raging. I'd lost track of how long it had been going. A day and a half? 2 days? My phone said Thursday, February 14th, but that didn't feel right. I'd arrived on Tuesday. It should only be Thursday morning now, but it felt like I'd been trapped in this RV for a week. I was running low on food. The propane was still good, but I'd been running the heater constantly, and I didn't know how much longer it would last. My water tank was half empty. The footsteps hadn't stopped. They'd walked all night, front to back to front, over and over, like a metronome keeping time to something I couldn't hear. Around 10 a.m. I heard voices again. This time multiple people, at least 3 or 4. They were somewhere outside, not far from my RV. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but they were all talking over each other, their voices rising and falling like a song. I went to the window and tried to look out, but the snow was piled too high. I could only see white. The voices got louder, closer, then they were right outside my door. A knock. But this time, multiple people knocked simultaneously, their fists striking the door in perfect unison. Hannah. Multiple voices speaking my name at once, all slightly out of sync. Hannah, we found Kelly. She wants to show you something. I didn't answer. I pressed myself into the corner farthest from the door, making myself as small as possible. The knocking continued. Not aggressive, just patient, steady, like they had all the time in the world. You'll have to come out eventually, the voices said. The storm won't stop until you do. That broke through my paralysis. What do you mean? The storm is waiting, and they said. It's always waiting. Come outside, Hannah. Come see what we found. No. You don't have a choice. The knocking stopped. The voices stopped. Even the footsteps on the roof went silent. I stayed in my corner, shaking. Part of me wanted to look out the peephole, to see who had been knocking. The rest of me knew that was a bad idea. Time passed. I don't know how much. The storm continued, but inside the RV everything was quiet. No footsteps, no knocking, no voices. I started to think maybe it was over. Maybe they'd left. Maybe I'd imagined the worst of it. Stress, isolation, cabin fever making me see and hear things that weren't there. Then I smelled smoke. Not wood smoke. Something chemical. Acrid. It made my eyes water immediately. I jumped up and looked around frantically. The smell was coming from outside, seeping in around the door. Smoke was starting to curl under the gap at the bottom. Someone was trying to smoke me out. I grabbed a towel and tried to stuff it under the door, but the smoke kept coming. It was getting thicker, harder to breathe. My eyes were streaming now, my throat burning. I had 2 choices: stay inside and suffocate or go outside into the storm with whoever was out there. I chose outside. I pulled on every layer I had, wrapped a scarf around my face, grabbed my phone even though it was useless. I stood by the door, took 3 deep breaths of the increasingly toxic air, and threw the door open. The smoke billowed out and I stumbled after it, coughing. My eyes squeezed shut against the wind and snow. When I could finally open them, I saw the fire. Someone had piled something against my RV's propane tank and set it alight. The flames were small but growing, melting the snow around them. I ran away from the RV, away from the fire, into the storm. I didn't have a direction. I just ran. The snow was deep, past my knees in some places. The wind was so strong I could barely move forward. I couldn't see anything. White everywhere. Up, down, all directions. White. I don't know how long I stumbled through the storm. Could have been 5 minutes. Could have been an hour. I fell several times, got back up, kept going. My lungs burned. My face felt like it was being flayed by the wind. Then I saw lights, gold and warm, cutting through the white. I stumbled toward them and a building materialized out of the storm. The bathroom facility. The lights were on inside. I pulled the door open and fell into the warmth. The door slammed shut behind me, cutting off the wind immediately. The bathroom was small. 2 stalls, 2 sinks, a shower. Institutional white tile that was cracked in places. Fluorescent lights humming overhead. And Kelly was there. She was standing at one of the sinks, looking at herself in the mirror. Her back was to me, but I recognized the ponytail, the jacket she'd been wearing. Kelly? My voice came out as a croak. She didn't turn around, didn't move at all, just stood there staring at her reflection. I moved closer, slowly. Something was wrong. Everything was wrong. Kelly, are you okay? She turned her head slightly, not enough to look at me, but enough that I could see her profile. He thinks I'm her, she said. Her voice was flat, empty. He can't tell the difference. What are you talking about? I came back and he was so relieved. He hugged me. He said he was so worried. She laughed, but it was wrong. Too high, too sharp. He can't tell that I'm not her anymore. You are her, I said, but I didn't believe it. You're Kelly. No, she turned to face me fully now and I saw it. Something in her face had changed. Not physically, she looked exactly like the Kelly I'd met 3 days ago. But something in the eyes, the set of the mouth. It was like looking at a photograph of someone instead of the person themselves. What happened to you? I whispered. I went outside, she said, into the storm, and it took me somewhere with doors that don't open and windows that show the wrong things, and when I came back, she looked down at her hands, turning them over like she was seeing them for the first time. This wasn't my body anymore. It just looks like it. I backed toward the door. You're not making sense. The storm takes people, she said. It's been doing it for years, decades maybe. People come up here to camp and a storm hits and they go outside and they don't come back, or they come back different. Wrong. That's not possible. She smiled then, and it was the same too wide smile I'd seen through the peephole. David can't tell. He's been sleeping next to me for 2 days and he has no idea. He kissed me this morning, Hannah. He told me he loved me. I grabbed the door handle. I'm leaving. The storm won't let you, she said. Not until it takes you too. That's how it works. It needs to replace someone. It already got me. Now it wants you. You're crazy. Maybe. She turned back to the mirror. Or maybe I'm the only one telling you the truth. The footsteps on your roof. That's you, Hannah. The you that's waiting to replace you. It walks up there learning how to be you, practicing your patterns. And when you finally break and go outside, it'll take your place. And the you standing here right now will be gone. That's insane. David can't tell the difference, she said again, her voice breaking slightly. He looks at me with so much love and he doesn't know I'm not her. He doesn't know his wife is gone. I ran. I threw the door open and ran back into the storm. I didn't have a plan. I just knew I couldn't stay in that bathroom with her. With it. With whatever she'd become. The wind hit me like a physical force. I could barely see. I had no idea which direction I was going. Away from the bathroom, that was all I knew. I heard voices calling my name. They came from everywhere and nowhere, distorted by the wind. Some of them sounded concerned. Some sounded angry. One sounded exactly like my ex-husband, which was impossible because Derek was in Salt Lake City. Hannah, come back. You'll freeze out here. Hannah, we can help you. Hannah, just give up. It's easier if you give up. I kept running, kept stumbling through the snow. My lungs were screaming. My face had gone numb. Then I hit something. Something solid. I bounced off it and fell backward into the snow. A wall. I'd run into a wall. I felt along it, trying to figure out what it was. Wood siding. A door. I'd found one of the RVs. I pulled myself up and pounded on the door. Help! Please! Someone help me! The door opened so fast I almost fell inside. It was David. He grabbed my arm and pulled me in, then slammed the door shut behind me. Jesus Christ, he said. What are you doing out there? You're going to freeze to death. I collapsed onto the floor, gasping, shaking so hard my teeth chattered. Your RV, I managed to say. They tried to burn my RV. What? Who? I don't know. Someone... I broke off, looking around. I was in a RV similar to mine, but bigger, nicer. And Kelly was sitting at the small dining table, holding a cup of coffee, watching me with that same flat expression. Are you hurt? David asked. Hannah, are you hurt? I couldn't take my eyes off Kelly. She raised the cup to her lips and drank, never breaking eye contact. I need to leave, I said. I need to get out of here. You can't leave in this storm, David said. Look, stay here until it passes, okay? You'll be safe here. No. I tried to stand up, but my legs wouldn't support me. No, I can't stay here. Hannah. David crouched down beside me. His face was concerned, his eyes kind. You're in shock. You need to warm up. Just stay for a bit, okay? Kelly spoke up from the table. She knows. David glanced at her. Knows what? She knows I'm not me. His expression didn't change. He turned back to me. The storm's been hard on all of us. Kelly got disoriented yesterday, spent hours outside. She's been saying strange things since she came back. It's the cold, the stress. She'll be okay once we get out of here. David, I whispered. Look at her. Really look at her. He did. He looked at his wife, sitting at the table, holding her coffee cup. And I saw something flicker across his face just for a second. Recognition. Horror. Then it was gone, replaced by that same concerned expression. She's fine, he said. We're all fine. The storm's just getting to us. He was lying. I could see it in the way his smile didn't reach his eyes, in the tension in his shoulders. He knew. He knew something was wrong with Kelly, but he was choosing not to see it. I need to go, I said again. Don't be stupid, Kelly said from the table. If you go back out there, you'll die. Or worse, you'll come back like me. Kelly, stop, David said sharply. She deserves to know the truth, Kelly continued. The storm takes people, David. It took me. And it's been trying to take her since she got here. That's why there are footsteps on her roof. That's her replacement waiting. There's no such thing, David said, but his voice wavered. I managed to stand, using the wall for support. I'm leaving. Thank you for letting me in, but I'm going back to my RV. Your RV is on fire, Kelly said. You said so yourself. She was right. The fire had been small, but it had been right next to the propane tank. By now the whole thing could be engulfed, or it could have been put out by the snow. I had no way of knowing. Then I'll go to the camp office, I said. The old woman, she'll help me. There is no old woman, Kelly said. There hasn't been anyone in that office for 3 years. It closed. You've been talking to a memory, Hannah, or something pretending to be one. I backed toward the door. David made a move like he might try to stop me, but Kelly put a hand on his arm. Let her go, she said. Maybe she'll make it. Maybe the storm will let her leave. I fumbled with the door handle, got it open, and stumbled back out into the white. The wind had died down slightly. I could see maybe 10 feet now instead of 5. I oriented myself. The bathroom building was to my left, which meant my RV should be straight ahead. I trudged through the snow, every step an effort. The voices had stopped calling my name. The storm seemed almost quiet now, just the hiss of falling snow and the occasional gust of wind. My RV came into view. The fire was out, probably smothered by the snow. There was black scorch marks on one side, and the siding had melted in places, but it was intact. No explosion. I climbed inside and locked the door behind me. The smoke smell was still there, but it was better than being outside. I turned the heater on, wrapped myself in every blanket I had, and sat on the bed. The footsteps started immediately, front to back to front, slow, patient. I looked at the ceiling. I know you're there, I said. I know what you are. The footsteps didn't stop. You can't have me, I said. My voice shook. I'm not going outside again. I'm staying right here until the storm stops, and then I'm leaving, and you can't stop me. The footsteps paused. For a moment there was just silence. Then they started again, but faster now, harder. The whole RV shook with each step. Back and forth, like whatever was up there was angry. I pulled the blankets tighter and closed my eyes. Time passed in a blur. Hours, maybe days. The storm continued. The footsteps continued. I ran out of food. The propane ran out, and the heater died, and the cold crept in. I stopped being able to feel my fingers and toes. I hallucinated, I think. I saw Derek sitting across from me, telling me I'd been a terrible wife. I saw my mother, who'd been dead for 5 years, standing in the doorway asking why I never called. I saw Kelly with that horrible smile saying, "David can't tell the difference," over and over. Then finally the storm stopped. I opened my eyes and realized the wind had died. The RV wasn't shaking anymore, and the footsteps on the roof had stopped. I didn't trust it. I stayed in my blanket cocoon, watching the door, waiting for it to burst open. Nothing happened. After what might have been hours, I heard an engine. A big one. Diesel. I forced myself to stand and look out the window. The snow had stopped falling. The sky was visible, pale blue, almost white, and a snowplow was making its way through the campground, clearing the road. Behind it was a sheriff's SUV. I started laughing, or crying. Maybe both. I unlocked the door and stumbled outside, waving my arms. The SUV stopped. A deputy got out, his face concerned. "Ma'am, are you all right?" "The storm," I said. My voice was hoarse, barely working. "How long was the storm?" He looked confused. "The storm? It started night before last. Cleared up this morning. Are you okay? Do you need medical attention?" Night before last. That was impossible. I'd been trapped for days, at least a week. Time had, but I remembered what Kelly had said. Time moves differently in the storm. "There are other campers," I said. "David and Kelly Green, they need help. Kelly's not, she's not right." The deputy guided me to his SUV, helped me sit in the back where it was warm. Another deputy was talking on the radio, calling for an ambulance. They found David and Kelly in their RV 20 minutes later. Both of them were fine, cold, shaken, but fine. Kelly hugged David when they emerged, and he held her tight, and I saw the way he looked at her. Love. Relief. No hint that he knew anything was wrong. They checked my RV. No sign of fire damage. No scorch marks. The siding was intact. The old woman at the camp office, she was there, alive, yelling at the deputies about all the fuss. She told them the campground had been open all winter, same as always. The doctor said I had severe hypothermia and dehydration, possible hallucinations from exposure and stress. They kept me for 3 days, then released me to my sister. The police investigated but found nothing unusual. No evidence of anyone trying to burn my RV. No footprints on the roof. David and Kelly confirmed the storm had been bad, but not abnormal for the area. Kelly seemed completely fine. Friendly, normal, no trace of that flat effect or horrible smile. Everyone said the same thing. I'd been alone too long. The isolation, the divorce, the stress. It had all caught up with me. I'd had some kind of breakdown. Maybe they're right. Maybe I imagined it all. But 3 weeks after I got home, I got a friend request on Facebook from Kelly Green. I almost didn't accept it, but curiosity won. Her profile was normal. Pictures of her and David hiking, camping, smiling. Posts about their adventures. Everything you'd expect. Except in every single photo, she wasn't blinking. I scrolled through dozens of pictures looking for one where her eyes were closed, even mid-blink. There weren't any. In every photo, her eyes were wide open, staring directly at the camera. And in the most recent photo, one posted just yesterday, she was standing in a forest somewhere, smiling that too wide smile. The caption read, "Can't wait for our next camping trip. We found the perfect spot." Behind her, barely visible in the trees, there were shapes. Dark shapes that might have been shadows, or might have been people standing perfectly still, watching. I blocked her immediately. Blocked David, too. I sold the RV the next day for half of what I'd paid for it. I don't camp anymore. I don't go anywhere that doesn't have cell phone signal and crowds of people and lights. Sometimes at night, when I'm trying to fall asleep, I hear footsteps on the roof of my apartment building. Slow, patient, front to back to front. I know what it is. I know what it's waiting for. And I know that one day, despite all my precautions, I'm going to go outside at the wrong time. Maybe I'll step out to get the mail. Maybe I'll take out the trash, but I'll go outside and it'll be there and it'll take my place. And everyone who knows me will look at whatever comes back and think it's me. They won't be able to tell the difference. Just like David can't tell the difference about Kelly. The storm took her, and it's waiting to take me too. I'm writing this down so someone will know. So if I start acting strange, if my smile gets too wide or I stop blinking in photos, someone will remember that I warned them. I'm still me right now. I'm still Hannah Carter. I'm still the woman who bought an RV and went camping and survived a storm that I'm not sure was entirely natural. But I don't know how much longer that will be true. The footsteps on my roof are getting louder. My name is Mia Turner. The scream wasn't from a stranger. It was my own voice begging for help. We pulled into the Kisatchie Forest RV site on a Thursday afternoon in late September. The drive from Baton Rouge had taken 3 hours, and by the time we arrived, I was ready to be done sitting. The RV we'd rented was a 32-foot Winnebago that handled like a school bus, and Jake had white-knuckled the steering wheel the entire way. "This is it?" he asked, looking at the entrance sign. The campground office was a small wooden building with peeling paint. A handwritten sign taped to the door said, "Ring bell for service." Jake rang it twice before an older woman came out, wiping her hands on her jeans. "Y'all checking in?" she asked. "Turner," Jake said. "We have a reservation for Site 47. She went back inside and returned with a clipboard and a map. 47's at the back, pretty isolated. That what you wanted?" "Yeah," I said. "We're trying to disconnect." She nodded, handed Jake the map, and pointed. "Straight back, take the left fork. You'll see the markers. There's a bathroom facility about a quarter-mile up the main road. No cell service out here, so if you need anything, you'll have to drive back to the office." Jake thanked her, and we got back in the RV. The campground was larger than I expected. Most of the sites near the front were occupied by families with kids running around. As we drove deeper, the sites became more spread out, separated by thick stands of pine and oak. By the time we reached Site 47, we couldn't see any other RVs. "This is perfect," Jake said, putting the RV in park. I looked out at the clearing. It was about 50 feet across, ringed by trees. A picnic table and a fire ring sat in the middle. The ground was covered in pine needles. We spent the next hour setting up. Jake handled the hookups while I arranged the inside. We'd planned this trip for months. A long weekend to get away from work, from the city, from everything. Jake was a software developer and I worked in marketing. We'd been together for 4 years and lived in a one-bedroom apartment that felt smaller every day. By 6 o'clock, we had the RV leveled and connected. Jake built a fire in the ring while I made sandwiches. We sat outside and ate while the sun went down through the trees. "No phones," Jake said, holding up his dead cell. "No internet. Just us." "Weird, right?" I said. "I already want to check my email." That's the addiction talking. We finished eating as darkness settled over the campground. The fire crackled and popped. Somewhere in the distance, I could hear other campers talking, but they were far enough away that I couldn't make out words. "What do you want to do tomorrow?" Jake asked. "There's supposed to be a trail about 2 miles from here. The woman at the office mentioned it." "Sounds good." We stayed outside until the fire burned down to embers, then went inside. The RV had a small bedroom in the back with a queen bed. I changed into pajamas while Jake brushed his teeth. I was almost asleep when I heard it. A scream. Not close, but not far either. Coming from somewhere in the trees to the east. I sat up. "Did you hear that?" Jake was still in the bathroom. "Hear what?" "A scream." He came out, toothbrush in hand. "Like an animal?" "I don't know, it was weird." We both stood there, listening. "Nothing. Probably a fox," Jake said. "They can sound human." "Yeah, probably." But I didn't sleep well that night. I kept waking up, listening for it again. It never came. Friday morning was clear and cool. Jake made coffee while I got dressed. We ate breakfast outside, watching mist rise from the forest floor. "Sleep okay?" he asked. "Not really." "The scream?" "Yeah, it was definitely a fox," he said. "I looked it up once. They sound exactly like people screaming." "You looked it up when?" "Just now. I had to drive up to the office to get service and Googled it." "You drove to the office?" "You were still asleep. I wanted to check work emails anyway." He must have seen my expression because he added, "Just a quick check. I'm disconnected now. I promise." After breakfast, we drove to the trailhead. The parking area was empty except for one other car. The trail wound through pine forest for about 3 miles, according to the sign. We were about a mile in when Jake stopped. "Did you see that?" he asked. "See what?" "Something moved. Over there." He pointed into the trees to our left. I looked but saw nothing except pines and undergrowth. "Probably a deer." "Maybe." We kept walking. The trail climbed gradually, and after another half-mile, we reached a clearing with a view of the forest stretching out below. We took some pictures and sat on a fallen log to rest. "This was a good idea," Jake said, "coming out here. Yeah, we should do it more often. Get away, just the two of us." I agreed, but even as I said it, I was looking at the trees. The forest felt dense here, oppressive. I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. We headed back down the trail and reached the RV around 2 in the afternoon. Jake suggested we drive into the nearest town for supplies, but I wanted to stay at the campsite. He went alone. I spent the next 2 hours reading on the picnic table. The campground was quiet. I saw no one. At some point, I got up to use the bathroom facility. It was a concrete building with stalls and showers, fluorescent lights that hummed. When I came out, I heard voices. They were coming from the direction of our site. I walked back, expecting to see Jake returned from town. The campsite was empty. The RV door was closed the way I'd left it. The fire ring was cold. But I definitely heard voices. 2 people talking, maybe more. I stood there for a full minute, listening. Nothing. I went inside the RV and locked the door. Jake got back around 5. He'd bought hot dogs and beer and marshmallows. We cooked the hot dogs over a fire and sat outside as the sun set. "See anyone while I was gone?" he asked. "No, why?" "Just curious, this place is pretty deserted." I didn't mention the voices, it seemed silly. We roasted marshmallows after dinner. The fire reflected off Jake's face, making his eyes look darker than usual. He was staring into the flames. "You okay?" I asked. "Yeah, just thinking about work." "I thought you were disconnected." "I am. It's just hard to shut it off, you know?" I did know. Even out here, my mind kept drifting back to the campaign I'd been working on. The deadlines waiting for me when I returned. We went inside around 9. Jake wanted to watch a movie on his laptop, but I was tired. I lay in bed while he sat in the front, headphones on. I could see the glow of the screen reflecting off the windshield. I must have dozed off because when I opened my eyes it was dark and Jake was next to me asleep. Then I heard it again. The scream, but this time it was closer. Much closer. And this time, I recognized it. It was my voice. I sat bolt upright, my heart slamming in my chest. The scream came again from somewhere just outside the RV. It was my voice, unmistakably, screaming for help. "Jake," I said, shaking him. "Jake, wake up." He groaned and rolled over. "What?" "Someone's outside, screaming." "What?" He was groggy, confused. The scream came again. My voice, raw and terrified, calling for help. Jake sat up fast. "What the fuck?" We both froze, listening. Silence. "That was you," Jake said. "Was that you?" "No, I'm right here." "But that was your voice." "I know." We got out of bed. Jake went to the window and looked out. The campsite was dark except for the dying embers of our fire. "I don't see anything," he said. "It was my voice, Jake." "I know. I heard it." We stood there for several minutes, not moving. The scream didn't come again. "What the hell was that?" I whispered. Jake didn't answer. We didn't sleep the rest of the night. We sat in the living area, lights on, waiting. Jake wanted to leave, but I talked him out of it. It was 3 a.m. Where would we go? "It was probably someone messing with us," I said, though I didn't believe it. "How would they know what you sound like?" "They don't, it just sounded similar." "Mia, that was your voice, exactly your voice." "I know." When the sun came up, we went outside. Everything looked normal. The fire ring, the picnic table, the trees. Jake walked the perimeter of the campsite while I stood by the RV. "Nothing," he said when he came back. "No footprints, no signs of anyone. Maybe we imagined it. We both heard it. Shared hallucination? That's not a thing." I wanted to leave then, pack up and drive home. But Jake insisted we at least talk to the woman at the office first, report what happened. We drove up to the main building. The same woman was there, sitting behind a desk, reading a paperback. "Morning," she said when we came in. "We need to report something," Jake said. "Last night someone was outside our RV screaming." The woman put down her book. "Screaming?" "Yeah. It sounded like my girlfriend, like someone was imitating her voice." The woman looked at me, then back at Jake. "Where are you folks staying?" "Site 47. Her expression changed slightly. "How long are you here?" "Through Sunday," I said. She picked up her book again. "Probably just a fox. They sound real human sometimes." "This wasn't a fox," Jake said. "This was a person. Someone was outside our RV. I can call the ranger if you want, but I doubt there's anything they can do. We've never had any trouble here." Jake looked at me. I shrugged. "Thanks," he said. "We'll let you know if it happens again." We walked back to the RV in silence. "That woman didn't give a shit," Jake said once we were back at the site. "She probably deals with paranoid campers all the time." "We're not paranoid, we heard what we heard." I didn't want to argue about it. I suggested we pack up and leave, but Jake refused. "I'm not letting some asshole with a voice recorder run us off," he said. "We paid for 3 nights, so we stayed." The rest of Saturday was uneventful. We went on another hike, shorter this time. Jake was quiet, distracted. When we got back, he sat in one of the camp chairs and stared at his phone even though it had no service. "What are you doing?" I asked. "Just looking at photos." "Of what?" "Us, from before." "Before what?" He looked up at me. "I don't know. Just before." That night we made spaghetti on the camp stove. The pasta was overcooked and the sauce was bland. But neither of us said anything. We ate in silence, watching the fire. Around 9, Jake said he was going for a walk. "A walk? It's dark." "I need to clear my head. I'll take the flashlight." "I'll come with you." "No, it's okay. I'll just be a few minutes." I didn't like it, but I also didn't want to fight. "Stay on the road," I said. "Don't go into the trees." "I won't." He grabbed the flashlight from inside the RV and headed toward the main road. I watched his light bob away until it disappeared around a bend. I sat by the fire and waited. 10 minutes passed, then 20, then 30. I went inside the RV and looked at the clock on the dashboard. It had been 45 minutes. I grabbed my phone even though I knew it was useless and went outside. I called Jake's name. No answer. I walked toward the main road calling for him. The campground was dark. I could see a few lights from other RVs in the distance, but our area was isolated. "Jake!" I shouted. "Jake, where are you?" Nothing. I walked further, my heart racing. The beam of my phone's flashlight cut through the darkness, illuminating pine trunks and shadows. Then I saw his flashlight. It was lying on the road about 100 yards from our site, still on, pointed into the ditch. I ran to it and picked it up. "Jake!" My voice echoed through the trees. I stood there, breathing hard, swinging both lights around. No sign of him. I ran back to the RV and got in the driver's seat. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely get the key in the ignition. I drove up to the office, but it was closed, dark. I honked the horn, but no one came out. I drove to the bathroom facility, thinking maybe he'd gone there. Empty. I spent the next hour driving around the campground, stopping at every site, asking if anyone had seen a man walking. Most people were already asleep. The few who answered said no. By midnight, I was back at our site, sitting in the RV with all the lights on, trying to decide what to do. I had no phone service. The office was closed. I didn't know where the nearest town was or how to get there. I decided to wait until morning. If Jake wasn't back by dawn, I'd drive until I found help. I didn't sleep. I sat in the driver's seat watching the darkness outside, jumping at every sound. Around 4 a.m, I heard footsteps. I grabbed the flashlight and pointed it out the window. Jake was walking toward the RV. I threw open the door. "Jake, where the hell have you been?" He stopped about 10 feet from the RV. He was wearing the same clothes, the same shoes, but something was off. "Jake?" He smiled. "I got lost." "Lost? I found your flashlight on the road. I dropped it. Where were you?" "In the trees." "For 6 hours." He kept smiling. I lost track of time. I stared at him. His face was the same, but the way he stood, the way he held his head, it was wrong. "Come inside," I said. He walked to the RV and climbed the steps. I backed away as he entered. "Are you okay?" I asked. "You look..." "I'm fine." He sat down on the couch. "I'm just tired." "Jake, you've been gone for 6 hours. I've been driving around looking for you. I was about to call the police. There's no service." "I know. I was going to drive somewhere." He nodded slowly, still smiling. "But I'm back now." "What happened? Where did you go?" "I told you I got lost." "In the trees? You said you'd stay on the road." "I changed my mind." I sat down across from him. He was staring at me with an expression I'd never seen before. Not quite a smile, not quite blank. Something in between. "Jake, you're scaring me." "Why?" "Because you're acting weird." "Am I?" "Yes. You disappeared for 6 hours and now you're sitting here smiling like nothing happened." I'm not smiling. But he was. I could see it clearly. The corners of his mouth turned up. His eyes crinkled slightly. "Yes, you are." He touched his face as if checking. "Oh, I guess I am." "What happened out there?" "Nothing." "Nothing?" I walked. I got lost. I found my way back. I wanted to believe him. I wanted everything to be normal. But it wasn't. "Let's just go to bed," I said. "We'll talk about it in the morning." "Okay." He got up and walked to the bedroom. I followed, keeping my distance. He lay down on top of the covers, still wearing his shoes. "Take your shoes off," I said. "Why?" "Because you're in bed." He looked at his feet as if noticing the shoes for the first time. "Okay." He took them off and dropped them on the floor. I got into bed next to him, but I didn't close my eyes. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, listening to him breathe. After a while, he said, "Mia?" "Yeah?" "Do you love me?" "What?" "Of course I do." "Why?" "What do you mean, why?" "Why do you love me?" I turned to look at him. He was staring at the ceiling, his face expressionless. "Because you're kind," I said. "Because you make me laugh. Because we're good together." "Are we?" "Yes." He didn't respond. We lay there in silence until the sun came up. Sunday morning, Jake acted like nothing had happened. He made coffee and eggs, whistling while he cooked. I watched him from the couch, trying to figure out what was different. "How'd you sleep?" he asked, setting a plate in front of me. "Not great. You?" "Like a rock." "Do you remember last night when you went missing?" "I didn't go missing. I went for a walk." "For 6 hours. Was it that long?" "Yes, Jake, it was." He shrugged. "Time's weird out here." I ate a few bites of eggs, but I wasn't hungry. Jake sat across from me, eating quickly, smiling between bites. "We should pack up soon," I said. Checkout's at 11. Why would we leave? Because we're supposed to. Our reservation ends today. Let's extend it. What? Let's stay longer. I like it here. Jake, you went missing last night for 6 hours. I want to go home. I didn't go missing. Fine. You went for a walk. Either way, I want to leave. His smile faded slightly. Why? Because this place is fucked up. Because I keep hearing my own voice screaming in the woods because you're acting strange. I'm not acting strange. Yes, you are. He stared at me for a long moment, his face blank. Then the smile returned. Okay. We can leave. I felt relieved, but also unsettled. Something was wrong with Jake. The way he moved, the way he talked. It was like watching someone trying to imitate him. I started packing while Jake took down the awning. He worked slowly, methodically, humming to himself. I kept glancing at him through the window. When I came outside with a bag of trash, he was standing by the fire ring, looking into the trees. What are you looking at? I asked. Nothing. Jake. I said nothing. I threw the trash in the RV and went back to packing. By 10:30, we were ready to go. I got in the driver's seat and started the engine. Aren't you coming? I called to Jake. He was still standing by the fire ring. Jake! He turned and looked at me. For just a second, his face was completely blank. No smile, no expression, just empty. Then he blinked, and the smile returned. Coming. He climbed into the passenger seat, and we drove toward the exit. When we passed the office, the woman was outside watering plants. She looked up and watched us go by. I waved, but she didn't wave back. She just stood there, holding the hose, staring. We reached the main road, and I turned toward Baton Rouge. Jake was quiet, looking out the window. You okay? I asked. Fine. You sure? I'm fine, Mia. We drove in silence for about 20 minutes, then Jake said, We should go back. What? We should turn around, go back to the campground. Why the hell would we do that? I liked it there. Jake, I know you're upset about work and everything, but we had a terrible time. I'm not going back. I'm not upset about work. Then what's going on with you? Nothing's going on with me. You disappeared for 6 hours, you came back acting weird, and now you want to turn around and go back to the place where I heard my own voice screaming in the woods. That's not nothing. He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, Do you really love me? Jesus Christ, yes, I love you. You hesitated. I didn't hesitate. You did. When I asked if you loved me last night, you hesitated. I was surprised by the question. You don't love me. Jake, stop, I love you. No, you don't. I pulled over to the side of the road and put the RV in park. I turned to face him. What is going on with you? He was smiling again, that same empty smile. Nothing's going on with me. You're not yourself. Yes, I am. No, you're not. Ever since you came back from that walk, you've been different. Different how? I don't know. Just different. Different bad or different good? Jake, this isn't funny. I'm not trying to be funny. I stared at him, trying to see past the smile, past the blank expression. But there was nothing there. No Jake. Just someone wearing his face. I want to go home, I said. Okay. I pulled back onto the road and kept driving. We were about an hour from Baton Rouge when Jake said, Stop the RV. Why? I need to get out. We're on the highway. I need to get out now. Jake! Stop the fucking RV. I'd never heard him raise his voice like that. I pulled over onto the shoulder and he threw open the door and jumped out. I got out and ran around to his side. He was standing in the grass looking at the trees along the highway. What are you doing? I asked. I need to go back. Go back where? To the forest. Jake, we're an hour away. Get back in the RV. I can't. What do you mean you can't? He turned to look at me. His face was wrong. The smile was too wide, stretching his mouth in a way that didn't look human. I need to go back, he said again. No. We're going home. You can go home. I'm going back. Jake, please. He started walking, not toward the trees, but along the shoulder, back in the direction we'd come. I ran after him. Jake, stop. He didn't stop. He kept walking, faster now, almost running. I grabbed his arm. Jake. He spun around and looked at me. His eyes were different, darker, empty. You don't love me, he said. I do love you. No, you don't. You never did. That's not true. It is, I can see it, I can see everything. What are you talking about? He pulled his arm free and kept walking. I stood there watching him go. A car passed, honking at me. I got back in the RV and pulled onto the highway. I followed Jake for about a mile, driving slowly behind him. Other cars honked and swerved around me. I didn't care. I watched him in the side mirror, walking along the shoulder, never looking back. Then he stopped. I stopped too, putting the RV in park. I got out and walked toward him. Jake? He was standing at the edge of the trees, staring into the forest. Jake, please, let's just go home. We can talk about whatever this is. He didn't respond. I reached out and touched his shoulder. He turned and looked at me. You should go home, he said. I don't belong there anymore. What does that mean? It means you should go. I'm not leaving you here. Yes, you are. He turned and walked into the trees. I followed him for about 20 feet, then lost him in the undergrowth. I called his name over and over, but he didn't answer. I stood there for maybe 10 minutes, waiting for him to come back. He didn't. Eventually, I walked back to the RV and sat in the driver's seat. I sat there for another hour, watching the trees, waiting. He never came back. I drove home alone. I called the police from a gas station and reported Jake missing. They took my information and said they'd send someone to search the area. I gave them the location where he'd walked into the trees. When I got back to our apartment, I didn't know what to do. I unpacked the RV and returned it to the rental company. I called Jake's parents and told them what happened. They were confused, upset. They asked me questions I couldn't answer. The police called me 3 days later. They'd searched the area where Jake disappeared. They found nothing. No footprints, no signs of him. They asked if we'd been fighting, if there was any reason he might have left on his own. I didn't know what to tell them. They expanded the search, brought in dogs. Nothing. After a week, they called to tell me they were suspending the search. Jake was officially a missing person. If I heard from him, I should call immediately. I didn't hear from him. I went back to work. People asked where Jake was. I told them we broke up. It was easier than explaining. I went to the apartment every day and expected him to be there. But he never was. 2 weeks after Jake disappeared, I woke up in the middle of the night to someone knocking on the door. I got up and looked through the peephole. Jake was standing in the hallway. I opened the door. Hi, he said, smiling. Jake? Where have you been? Can I come in? I stepped aside and he walked into the apartment. He looked the same clothes, same face, but that smile was still there, that empty smile. I've been calling you, I said. The police are looking for you. Your parents are worried sick. I know. Where have you been? In the forest. For 2 weeks? Yes. Doing what? Waiting. Waiting for what? He sat down on the couch, still smiling. For you to come back. Come back? Jake, I'm right here. You're the one who left. No, you left. I didn't leave. You walked into the trees and disappeared. I've been in the apartment the whole time. No, you haven't. Yes, I have. I stared at him. He was looking around the apartment like he'd never seen it before. Jake, you're not making sense. I'm making perfect sense. No, you're not. You're talking crazy. He looked at me, his smile widening. Am I? Yes. Are you sure? Yes, I'm sure. He stood up and walked to the window. He looked out at the city lights. I should go, he said. Go where? Back. Back to the forest. Yes. Jake, you just got here. I know, but I don't belong here anymore. What does that mean? He turned and looked at me. It means I'm not Jake. I felt my stomach drop. What? I'm not Jake, he said again, still smiling. I never was. You're not making sense. Yes, I am. You just don't want to understand. He walked past me toward the door. Wait, I said. Who are you? He opened the door and looked back at me. I'm the scream, he said. I'm the voice in the trees. I'm the thing that calls you back. Then he left. I stood there for a long time, staring at the open door. I called the police and told them Jake had been here. They came to the apartment and took a statement. They asked if he'd seemed disoriented, if he'd been using drugs. I told them I didn't know. They put out a new alert. They searched the area around the apartment. They found nothing. Jake never came back. That was 3 months ago. I still live in the same apartment. I still go to work every day. I still call Jake's phone even though I know he won't answer. Sometimes late at night I hear it. The scream. My own voice, calling from somewhere far away. Begging for help. I don't go to it. I stay inside with the windows closed and the doors locked. But I know eventually I'll have to go back. Back to the forest. Back to the place where Jake disappeared. Back to whatever it was that took him. Because the voice is getting louder and I'm starting to realize something. I'm starting to realize that the scream wasn't coming from outside the RV that night. It was coming from inside. It was me. The real me. The one who's still there. And the woman who came back. The one sitting in this apartment right now, writing this down. I'm not her. I'm something else. I'm the thing that heard the scream and answered. I'm the thing that walked out of the trees. And I'm still here wearing Mia Turner's face, living Mia Turner's life. But soon I'll have to go back. Because the real Mia is still in the forest. And she's still screaming.